Outcasted OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, it's Courtney here from the Outcasted OC Podcast and welcome to the Monday Night Raw recap. I'm not going to mess about too much in an introduction, I'm just going to get straight into it because a lot happened this week on Monday Night Raw, so let's just jump straight into the episode. So Monday Night Raw this week kicked off with the Judgment Day coming out to the ring to cut a promo. Now, it was referenced on commentary that this is the second week in a row, I think, that Judgment Day has not had all 4 members present when they've come out to the ring. So it was just Damien, Dom, and Rhea this time. Rhea comes out to the ring and says, "Welcome to Monday Night Raw, a place that Judgment Day runs," and she acknowledges that things haven't been going their way as of late. Damien says at SummerSlam, Finn Balor should have walked out as the World Heavyweight Champion. Last week, Judgment Day should have won our match. Communication has been an issue. As long as I'm Mr. Money in the Bank, we will always dictate what goes on around here. Tonight, Finn Balor will handle Cody Rhodes. He's one of the most dominant superstars around. And he goes ahead and then he says, he should be here to tell you guys that though. But unfortunately, he's not. And he says, Judgment Day aren't breaking up. Finn and I are smarter than that, but he should be here. And Rhea says, "Priest, this is not the time or place." And Damien says, we don't need to keep pretending like they don't know what's going on. There's clearly something wrong with Judgment Day. And with Finn Balor, we're supposed to be a crew, right? Where is Finn Balor? And so JD McDonough's music hits and he comes on out. And Damien says, "Look, JD, man, I see that you've got a microphone. You clearly have something to say, but just be really careful with what comes out of your mouth." And JD says, "Guys, I don't mean to interrupt, and I mean no disrespect to one of the most dominant factions, not only on Monday Night Raw, but in WWE. He says, "I've come out here because I've got a message from Finn." And everyone's looking real confused, like, why is JD giving messages from Finn to us? We're like a crew. Anyway, so the message that JD is passing on from Finn Balor is he told JD to pass on to Judgment Day to say not to worry about his friendship. So don't worry about JD's friendship with Finn. You need to start worrying about the real targets, which are Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn. JD then goes on to say, "I took out Sami Zayn last week, but with some form of a miracle, they've medically cleared him." And Rhea says, "We don't take orders from anybody who's not a part of Judgment Day." And then Dominic tries to say, "Let us handle business," but obviously he's getting booed out of the building as per normal. And JD says, "Look, I mean no disrespect. I am quite literally just delivering a message from Finn to you." And Rhea says, "Good. Here's a message that you can pass on to Finn. Tell him that we need to talk." And then Sami Zayn runs out and he ends up attacking JD McDonough outside of the ring, which ends up setting up a match for after the commercial break. So we come back from the commercial break to a match from JD McDonough and Sami Zayn. Now, this match is obviously in reference to the attack that was made on Sami Zayn last week by JD McDonough. We don't know if this is Judgment Day related, if this is Finn Balor related, or if this is just JD causing a mess within himself. But anyway, in this match, Sami Zayn's working with one arm, obviously because he has that massive elbow issue at the moment. Sami Zayn's still looking very strong in this match though. JD McDonough is very heavily targeting the elbow, ends up uncovering the elbow covering because he's got like a protector pad on it, and slams his elbow into the ring multiple times, which obviously that would be very, very painful. Sami Zayn gets back on the attack. JD ends up slamming Sami Zayn's arm again into the barricade. And then Sami goes for a top rope splash, but JD ends up countering it with a drop kick, which was like perfection. The timing on that was awesome. They showed a replay. It looked fantastic. It was a really great move. I really enjoyed it. Then Finn Balor comes out and tries to distract Sami Zayn from outside of the ring. JD ends up rolling up Sami Zayn trying to get a 2 count, and then JD ends up hitting a moonsault, but Sami Zayn gets his knees up. Then Sami Zayn ends up attacking Finn Balor, hits JD McDonough with a helluva kick, and comes away with the win from the match. As Sami Zayn's leaving, Finn Balor's in the ring trying to console JD McDonough, is kind of just making sure he's okay. We still don't know if there's any form of alliance there, but as the weeks go on, it's very interesting to see how this all goes down. Then we see a backstage video segment where Adam Pearce and Chelsea Green are backstage discussing Sonya Deville's injury and how Chelsea is a part of the tag teams, but she's only there to participate herself. She doesn't have a tag team partner. And Chelsea said, I've worked way too hard to get these titles just to throw them away. And she says, I'm going to call your manager. And then she comes up with this great idea that she's going to call HR. And Adam Pearce goes ahead and says, well, what would you do? And Chelsea says, I'm going to hold Chelsea's Got Talent auditions, which if you've seen her social media posts, many people have been auditioning to be her new tag partner. I personally have loved this. I think it's such an awesome way to use social media and to get your name out there. And for a storyline as well too is like very good. Then Casey and... Katana and Kaden. Why did I say Casey? Anyway, that's fine. They end up coming in and they've basically just said, we've heard about what's happened to Sonya Deville, and as soon as you have a tag partner, we'll be ready too. And before she gets a chance to finish her sentence, Piper Niven comes in and starts beating down on her, and Piper says, I'm your new tag team partner. And Chelsea said, I was going to hold auditions, so if you want to leave your name, number, and your Instagram handle. And then Piper says, I don't think you understand, and rips one of the tag belts because Chelsea's holding them like Chelsea 2 belts. So Piper ends up grabbing one of them off Chelsea, puts it around her, and she says, I'm your new tag partner, and they walk out. I love this. I feel like Chelsea and Piper could be really good. I know it's odd tag team, like pairing-wise, but we said the same thing about Sonya and Chelsea, and look where that got us. It got us a really good tag team that worked very cohesively well together, so I'm excited to see what they're going to do with her and Piper. I'm very excited that Piper is back because she's been long overdue for a return. Then we had Byron Saxton interviewing Cody Rhodes backstage. Now it's referenced by Byron that, we start talking about Finn Balor being a bit of a loose cannon. How do you feel about that? And Cody goes ahead and says, you've got to be a loose cannon to do this thing, right? To a degree, I admire Finn Balor. He was a leader in Ireland, a leader in Japan, and now he's a leader within Judgment Day. And he goes, I'm not the only one who understands that, or he's not the only one who actually can see that Judgment Day has not just one leader. And he says that Damian Priest is an alpha, and that Rhea is a bona fide star, and that Dominic Mysterio is just submissive. And he says he'll be ready for Finn Balor, and he's ready to take on Judgment Day. Then Imperium come out to the ring, and Gunther is standing on the announcer's table as he has been during his last couple of promos on Monday Night Raw. And he starts off by saying he's on a journey of creating a legacy for the Intercontinental Championship. And when he arrived in Winnipeg, that was obviously when he continued the legacy. And he says, as a European, I look forward to coming to Canada, but now I understand why they call this place the armpit of Canada, and talks about how he was walking around the streets and everyone was just ugly and he just didn't really appreciate it. And then he said he's here to address Chad Gable. He's obviously very impressed with his victory last week, obviously putting him in the spot to be in a contenders match for the Intercontinental Championship. And he said, this man has been working hard for years. He's a former Olympian. He may be one of the best athletes that this company has to offer. But I've accomplished more in 1 year than this man has accomplished within his entire career. And he says that all of you believe that he is a threat to me. You believe he'll be the one to dethrone the Ring General. It's ridiculous. And then Chad Gable comes out and just does a massive shoosh. I'm not going to do it because I can't do it for as long as Chad Gable did, but it was a very long shoosh. And then he goes, thank you. And then the entirety of Alpha Academy come out, and Chad goes ahead and says, Gunther, 2 weeks ago you put time on the clock and said that Chad Gable wouldn't last 5 minutes with you. But I did that, and I beat you at your own game. You're the one that's on the clock. You're weeks away from setting a record for the all-time longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. But there's just one thing. There is someone nipping at your heels who has been waiting for 10 years for this opportunity. 10 years to hold a title. 10 years to be a champion. And he goes ahead and he says, I'm chasing you down and I'm coming for that Intercontinental Championship. And he goes ahead and says he could give Giovanni Vinci a few lessons alongside Master Gable. And Ludwig Kaiser comes in and says, nah. And he says, Vinci will embarrass you just like I embarrassed that freak friend of yours, Otis, last week. Eventually, Maxine, you should surround yourselves with European elegance. And then he goes ahead and he says, the Alpha Academy, Maxine, is a sinking ship, and I'm here reaching out to you, trying to give you my hand. You've got two options. Either I can save you, or you've got a 360-pound anchor dragging you down and you'll become an embarrassment just like them. Then Maxine ends up slapping Ludwig and we go to a commercial break. When we come back from the commercial break, we see a match between Giovanni Vinci and Chad Gable. Now, obviously, this was just from the interaction they've just had. They've just set up a match between the two of them during the commercial break. Giovanni Vinci was looking very strong during this match, but Gable was able to counter a lot of Giovanni's moves very well. Giovanni Vinci was showing a lot of power during this match. This match was quite evenly balanced in terms of strength from the both of them. Giovanni ended up hitting Gable with some really loud chops, and a rolling neckbreaker moonsault combo came from Chad Gable. Alpha Academy ended up celebrating the win because Chad Gable won the match. And then Gunther comes in and starts crap talking again and sets up a match for Otis. So then we end up seeing a super quick, very impromptu match between Gunther and Otis. They exchange a lot of power moves and chops. Gunther ends up getting beating down on Otis, and there's a fall-away slam by Otis to Gunther that comes into play, followed by a powerbomb by Gunther to Otis, and so Gunther ends up coming away with the win. Like I said, this was a very, very quick match, not very much to kind of sink your teeth into. But then at the end of this, Chad Gable ends up coming into the ring and ends up German suplexing Gunther, which was quite cool to see the entirety of Alpha Academy come to Otis's defense, which was quite cool. Then we had a backstage video segment. Now this is obviously going off of the encounters that we had earlier in the night with Judgment Day. The entirety of Judgment Day is backstage, so Finn Balor has finally reunited with them. Damian Priest goes ahead and says, you can't be bothered to be with your family the Judgment Day, but when it's your boy JD McDonough, it's okay and you want to be around him. Can you explain that to us? And Finn goes ahead and says, you need to relax. And Rhea says, enough. This is what everybody wants. They want to see us crumble. We're the most dominant faction within the whole of WWE. Do you want to know why nobody's scared of us? Look at us right now. We've accomplished so much, but we're starting to lose our killer instincts here. And then JD McDonough comes in and tries to talk to Finn at the same time. And he's like, I'm really sorry for what happened out there. And Damian responds with, JD, man, look, this is Judgment Day business. You need to step away. And Finn Balor responds with, relax. And he says, look, JD, I will talk to you later. And he says, then he tries to talk back to Damian and says, that this isn't about me and JD. This is about all of us in the Judgment Day. Tonight, we have an opportunity to show the world how strong we are. Cody Rhodes tonight won't know what's hit him. Then we go to a video recap from Friday Night SmackDown. Now this is from the Hail to the Chief Bloodline segment that we saw, which is then followed by Jackie talking to Drew McIntyre backstage in an interview segment. And she's just asking hey, after what happened with you and Gunther at SummerSlam, what's next? Where do you see yourself going? And before he has a chance to say anything, Riddle ends up coming in and says, look, man, it's so good to see you. And he says, sorry, I've just been feeling some kind of way. And he says, when you're down, it's always good to have a bro to pick you up. And he talks about how the Viking Raiders have set an open challenge for a tag team match tonight and how Riddle's put his name forward, but he doesn't have a tag team partner. And he goes ahead and he says to Drew, would you consider being my tag team partner? And Drew says, if you can't find a partner before the match, I will consider being your tag team partner for the match. This was quickly followed by a super quick video package for Indy Hartwell. I really enjoyed this. I'm liking the fact that we're getting to see her more on TV. I'm really enjoying that they're finally putting some time into her on the main roster. Then we had the match between Drew McIntyre within the team of Drew McIntyre and Matt Riddle going up against the Viking Raiders. To be honest, I didn't really write a whole lot of notes down because I've seen the Viking Raiders too much. They're doing too much of the same thing. I'm really sick of them. I kind of just feel like they're not doing anything of note. I get that they're trying to bring them back as a dominant force, but when you've been treating them like a joke for so long, I just can't get behind them. I just don't like the Viking Raiders. And I noticed that during this match, Drew McIntyre wasn't in it until near the very end, so Riddle was doing a lot of the work in this match. And Drew McIntyre, I don't know whether or not he tried to or not, he just looked like he wasn't trying to get in the match, so maybe that was Drew McIntyre's way of saying, I don't really want to be a part of the match, or, Riddle was just taking a lot of the match for himself. I'm not really too sure. But as I say, that's kind of how it went down. Matt Riddle and Drew McIntyre did end up coming away with the win on this one. Then we had a video recap from the brawl between Rhea and Raquel from last week. which was followed by Indi Hartwell and Candice backstage. Now, Indi's doing some stretching before her match tonight. Raquel comes in and she says, guys, I'm really trying to get cleared, but they won't let me. And Indi goes ahead and she says that she's ready to tear Rhea apart. And Candice, goes ahead and says, you've just got to be patient when it's your chance. You'll get your chance. And then Raquel goes ahead and says, go out and show the WWE Universe who you are. Now, she's obviously talking to Indi Hartwell. Then we end up seeing Drew McIntyre and Matt Riddle backstage walking after their match, and Riddle's talking about how they're going to become the new tag team champions. Xavier and Kofi end up coming in and they're like, did we hear this right? And then they start having like a riff-off battle between each other in terms of the fact that the New Day are gone for a couple months and all this stuff happens. So Shinsuke turns, Street Profits try to become like Cedric and Shelton, all these other events, and then they basically end up setting a match up next week for the New Day versus Matt Riddle and Drew McIntyre to kind of see who's going to go ahead and become the new tag team champions. Then we had the match between Rhea Ripley and Indi Hartwell. As I said, I like that they've put Indi on TV, but I just don't like what they did with her in this match. So pretty much from the beginning, it looks like Rhea's getting a lot of offense in. So Rhea's tossing Indi Hartwell in the ring, like just constantly tossing her. And then Rhea ends up dominating Indi Hartwell throughout the match. But then there's a point in the match where Indi's in the corner and then Rhea ends up running towards her. Indi gets out of the way and Rhea ends up shoulder tackling herself into the ring post. Then Indi Hartwell ends up hitting a spine buster to Rhea Ripley, but then Rhea ends up driving Indi into the post, hits her with a Riptide, 1, 2, 3. Rhea Ripley is the winner of this match. At the very end, Indi and Candice both end up attacking Rhea Ripley, so whether or not that means that there's some form of alliance showing, we get to see if they're going to reunite the way on the main roster. I really hope they do. But yeah, this made Indi look a little bit better now that she's got Candice helping her, but nonetheless, we move on. Then we had a video recap from the main event match last week, which was the 6-man tag where Shinsuke Nakamura turned heel and ended up attacking Seth Rollins. After the video package, Shinsuke Nakamura comes out to the ring and ends up getting in the ring with Michael Cole. Now, Michael Cole asks, hey Shinsuke, why did you attack Seth Rollins last week at the end of the match? Shinsuke starts talking in Japanese and then ends up saying that he wants the world title. Michael Cole said, but did you really need to kick Seth Rollins in the head just to prove that? And Shinsuke goes ahead and speaks in Japanese again, and then goes ahead and says that he wants to win the World Heavyweight Championship. Seth Rollins comes out, Michael Cole goes back to the commentary table, and Seth goes ahead and says, Michael, great job, let me take over for you, and then does his whole welcome to Monday Night Rollins spiel at the beginning. And Seth goes ahead and, he says, Shinsuke, last week you played the role to perfection. And he's obviously in reference to his turn on Seth. And he said it was all in the name of the World Heavyweight Championship, but it was too obvious. And he says, I feel like you're not telling the entire truth because Shinsuke, I'm not that hard to find. And he says, every week I stand here dressed to the nines in this ring with the World Heavyweight Championship and everybody singing my song. And he goes ahead and he says, if you aren't aware, I am a fighting champion who has the utmost respect for you, who had the utmost respect for you. If you wanted a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship, all you had to do was ask, but you didn't. You kick me in the face, and for the last week, everybody's been saying, why Shinsuke, why Shinsuke, why Shinsuke? I'm less concerned with why, and I'm more concerned with how I'm going to get even. And he says, you win, Shin. For me to get what I want, I now have to give you what you want. He says, challenge accepted, Shinsuke. You name the time and the place, and I'll be there to kick your ass. So let's give the people what they want. Shake my hand, get your ass out of this ring, and let the crowd sing my song. So Shinsuke looks at Seth and kind of hesitates, then goes to grab his hand. I don't know if they shake hands, they kind of just touch hands. Shinsuke's staring at Seth and then goes ahead and whispers something in Seth Rollins' ear. He looks a little bit confused and then Shinsuke ends up walking away. Seth Rollins is taking some time to process what Shinsuke said. But then Shinsuke ends up hitting Seth Rollins with a Kinshasa, so gets his revenge on Seth Rollins. Then we had a video recap from the promo segment between The Miz and LA Knight from last week's Monday Night Raw, which was followed by an interview with Byron Saxton and The Miz, and now Byron's kind of just asking about the interaction that they had last week. And The Miz refers to it as like a verbal teardown. So he says that verbal teardown of LA Knight last week proved why I'm not only better on the mic, but I'm also better in the ring, and I did not shake his hand. And then Byron's trying to come to the defense of LA Knight, and The Miz ends up asking, are you an LA Knight guy now? And I think Byron goes ahead and says something like, yeah. And then The Miz gets triggered and he's like, don't say yeah. And he says that next week he will beat up someone who's bigger, faster, and more dominant than any of LA Knight's opponents, and he might even show up on SmackDown this week. So I'm really excited to see where this feud goes. Like I said last week, it's a dream feud of mine for them two to face off, and I'm so excited to see where this goes. Segueing into what I was not excited to see this week. Now, the long-awaited match between Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch, where Zoe Stark is barred from ringside. I had a theory that this match wasn't actually going to go ahead, but I was pleasantly surprised. So this match starts off in the ring. It goes in the ring for quite some time. The match itself was really good in the ring as a, clinical classic that Becky and Trish would put on. But unfortunately, it starts to go downhill very quickly, and I'm very disappointed, and I'll give all of my thoughts on this at the very end of me summarizing what's happened. But basically, they end up leaving the ring, both of them together, and Trish ends up throwing Becky over the barricade. Now, obviously, if you don't know, if you go outside of the ring, you're gonna get counted, and if it's a 10 count, then you're done. So they try to leave the ring, and they try to brawl up into the crowd. The match ends in a double count out, which why? Why can't you just have a decisive match between the two of them? Then what ends up happening is the match ends up going outside all the way up through the crowd to the top of the stadium, and they end up brawling in the top of the stadium and end up brawling in the merch crowd. And then Zoe Stark, a black hooded figure, ends up coming in attacking Becky. So the match is ended in a double count out with no decisive winner, and Zoe Stark still ends up interrupting in this brawl. I feel so bad for Trish and Becky because they have tried their best to make this work. This feud it's gotten to the point where it's so long that it's being drawn out for so long now that I don't care about it anymore. And I shouldn't feel like that. And I hate saying that I feel like that about a Becky Lynch feud because Becky Lynch's feuds have been some of my favorite. There's a reason why she's my favorite female wrestler of all time. But the problem here is that this match, this entire feud, should have culminated at SummerSlam. That would have been the perfect way to finish this feud. But no, you're dragging it out for longer than it needs to be, and people are getting sick of it. And that's a shame because both of these women have put a lot of hard work into this feud to continue to build it and build it and build it. And then what you've done is you've built it up so much and you give it such a crap result by a double count out, and then you still have Zoe Stark interrupt in some way, shape, or form. It's just really frustrating because, as I said, I feel like this should have really ended at SummerSlam and they should be moving on to something different. But unfortunately, they're not, which is a real bummer. But hey, you can't always get what you want, right? Then we see Imperium's backstage. Now, Gunther's really angry and upset with Giovanni and Ludwig because at the end of the match, they did not come to help out in any way, shape, or form. There's a lot of tensions now forming within Imperium, obviously, because like I said, Gunther feels like Ludwig and Giovanni are both jokes. Ludwig goes ahead and says he'll talk to Adam Pearce and he'll do his best to sort it out. And Gunther says, no, I'm going to go to Adam Pearce and I'm going to sort this out all by myself like I always do. So there is some tensions forming within Imperium. I'm excited to see where it goes, but I'm also very sad because I really like Imperium and I don't like the fact that a lot of these factions are breaking up. Can we just have some factions stay together? Then we see Adam Pearce running into Trish Stratus and Zoe Stark backstage, and he's like, what do you call that? She was meant to be barred from ringside, and then Trish tries to say, well, she wasn't even in the match. She wasn't even in the match. And then Adam Pearce goes ahead and says, next time you and Becky are going to be facing each other one-on-one, there's not going to be any interference because you guys are going to be having a steel cage match. First of all, why couldn't they have had that steel cage match tonight instead of giving us what you did? And secondly, why could this not have culminated at SummerSlam? As I said before, I love Becky with all of my heart, and I know this is not her fault, but I'm not interested in this feud anymore. It's so stale to me now. They have to do something to really amplify this and put it on in a premium live event, because it's just like, this is boring for me now. And it's baffling my mind that I'm saying that about Becky Lynch. I feel like I'm swearing in a church. Like, I shouldn't be saying that about my queen. But unfortunately, Triple H, I'm going to hand you a big fat L this way. Big fat L for this one, because what the hell do you call this? Like, come on. Anyway, let's move on to the main event, because I could talk about that feud for so long, and I'm not going to, because I'm going to reserve it for another conversation. Anyway, main event, Finn Balor versus Cody Rhodes. So, from the very beginning, Finn Balor starts trying to work the still kind of injured arm of Cody Rhodes. And Cody manages to take charge in the match. Finn ends up getting caught by Cody. I think Finn tries to go for like a leapfrog, but then Cody ends up grabbing him and Finn ends up raking Cody's eyes. Finn ends up brutalizing Cody when they come back from the commercial break. Dom and Rhea both come out trying to cause a distraction to Cody Rhodes and obviously start doing their distracting antics. Then Finn Balor's on the attack, and then a little bit later, Damian Priest does end up coming in to help out in some way. Finn Balor ends up hitting Cody Rhodes with a sling blade and then drives Cody Rhodes into the corner of the ring. There is a spot where Finn tries to hit a coup de grace, but unfortunately he ends up missing it. Cody ends up hitting a Cody cutter, and then Damian Priest tries to end up grabbing Cody. So I think Cody went to run the ropes. Damian ends up grabbing him to try and prop him down. But then Finn ends up getting thrown and gets caught outside of the ring by Damian Priest. Then Cody Rhodes ends up hitting a suicide dive, which is then followed by Rhea Ripley trying to distract the ref. Whilst Cody Rhodes is on the top rope, Dominic Mysterio ends up pulling him off. Then Balor ends up superplexing Cody, and Dominic Mysterio ends up trying to send a chair into the ring, and the ref sees it and Finn's like, it wasn't me, it was him, I didn't ask for this, it wasn't me. And then Damian Priest, obviously when that chair spot ends up failing, Damian Priest tries to slide the case into to help out with Finn, but unfortunately you've got Damian here, you've got Finn, and you've got Cody, and Finn's got his legs split apart, so the case gets pushed in, and Cody ends up grabbing it, ends up hitting Finn with the case, and ends up hitting Damian Priest with the case as well too. Crossroads is hit by Cody Rhodes. 1, 2, 3. Cody Rhodes gets the win, but all is not over. So then Damian and Dom end up attacking Cody Rhodes. Sami Zayn's music ends up hitting, comes out to the rescue. He ends up blowing on Damian, Dom, and Finn. And then JD comes out and ends up attacking Sami Zayn from behind. And then Finn and Damian and JD all kind of look at each other really confused. I kind of equated it to that Spider-Man meme where all Spider-Mans are sitting in a triangle. Then we end up seeing that JD's just standing and watching as the entirety of Judgment Day is just causing a whole lot of chaos, just beating down on everybody. So Finn Balor ends up hitting Cody Rhodes with a coup de grace. Sorry, I'm just reading my notes because there was quite a lot that happened in this. And then Rhea and Dom end up attacking attacking Seth. What the fuck? Sami Zayn. See, there was so much that happened that I'm literally trying to figure out what happened. And then Finn ends up hitting a coup de grace on Sami Zayn. Courtney, just read your bloody notes. It's what you're supposed to do. Then Damian Priest throws Sami Zayn into the table, so the announcer's table's cleared, ends up smashing the announcer's table. And then Finn hits Cody Rhodes with a second coup de grace inside of the ring, ends up sitting on Cody and does that pose which asserts his dominance. And then the entirety of Judgment Day's hugging inside of the ring, whilst we see a shot of JD McDonough standing outside of the ring. So is that maybe a kind of simile metaphor of JD McDonough looking at the Judgment Day from the inside out, maybe wanting to join, maybe wanting to tear it apart, I don't know, but my overthinking brain just goes ahead and thinks of anything and everything, and that is how Monday Night Raw finished. So if you guys enjoyed, I hope you did, because it was a very long episode, very interesting episode as well too, nonetheless. A lot of changes and a lot of things are moving forward in the Judgment Day, and it's just very exciting to see where this entire storyline is going to go. So if you guys like the video, please make sure that you like, comment and subscribe to the YouTube channel, because that helps push our videos out to the algorithm to find more wrestling fans like you. If you like what we do, please go ahead and make sure that you follow the Outcasted TikTok, Twitter and Instagram as well too. Those will all be linked down below. If you like what we do personally on our own social medias whilst we're not posting on here, make sure you go ahead and check the description. It's got all of our Instagrams and TikTok links down below. Now, we will be having a podcast episode this week, which we've now started to advertise. It's a women's only episode, so unfortunately Reese and Ross will not be allowed in the podcast. It's going to be myself and G, and we've got a couple of special guests as well too. So we've got Jasmine, who's been on the channel before, and we're going to have Wheezy as well too. So Wheezy's from TikTok. Now we're going to be talking about all things women's wrestling and all things women's content creation. So if you want to check that out, make sure that you go ahead and click notify me, because the episode has been scheduled. Or you can just go ahead and follow our Instagram page, because we keep you guys up to date with all of the podcast episodes. But yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this episode of Monday Night Raw. I will see you guys in the next recap. Bye guys.